What's up? It's Jeremy Picker from Amber Creative.
This is Deanna with In the Zoning and Print Girl Mafia.
This is Ray Weiss with Printing the Night of the Lion.
You're listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by Terry Combs RG, regular guy, and Aaron Montgomery.
The place to be for industry news.
The best dad jokes on earth, along with relevant topics to apparel decorators.
Fashion to the people.
Welcome into the show. It is Friday, September 12th. I am not Terry Combs. I'm Aaron Montgomery with our success group at American Print and Supply. Terry is restarting on the fly. This is the joys of a live podcast. Every once in a while we run into some technical difficulties. So Terry will be right back, and I'll let him introduce himself at that point. We've got Eric Campbell in as well. And so this week, once Terry gets back, or maybe it's going to be Eric and I, we're going to share some ideas and thoughts about how do we make this upcoming fourth quarter. And regardless of what year you're listening to this in, right? This is our 13th year of the podcast. So it might be the fourth quarter of 2030 for all we know that you're listening to this. But we want to make that fourth quarter an amazing time of the year. And I know there's a lot of chaos and challenges that come with the holiday season, especially for us regulators in the printing space. So Eric, we're going to try to unpack some things that we've learned over the years of dealing with these fourth quarter holiday stresses, so to speak.
And honestly, it's always coming. You know, and sometimes people will say it's too early. They'll say it's too late. Whatever you say, it makes people unhappy. But you got to take a little bit of time to think about how that Q4 holiday rush is going to go. And the earlier you do it, the better.
Yeah.
Also, stay tuned. I'm going to promo it for myself. Stay tuned to the very end where I am going to cover handling escaped edge underlays. So if you've ever seen that unwanted outline of straight stitches popping out from the edge of your finished satin stitches, you're going to be happy you stick around and listen to me talk about this for a bit. It's super common, and though it's a simple thing to fix, many people are still dealing with it every day. And I answer this question so many times I thought it was worth a little bit of secret sauce.
Absolutely. Excited for that. I don't think I've ever had that, but that, you know, in my 15 minutes of embroidery time, right, I know I'm going to learn something, right? It's so cool to be able to be around people that care about education, Eric, like yourself, right? Because even if I might never, ever use this, right, we're in this space. The more we know, the better off we're going to be. So.
Well, you know, I'm actually going to say this is something that I'm going to do on my show later today. I just wanted to bring this up. We have a little time, so I thought it was worthwhile. Yeah. I got called in on a call. One of our good friends, Richard Grease, showed up and asked me, hey, can you get in on this call? I'm doing a call right now. And he just sent me an email. It was like, can you join this call now? I'm like, if Richard Grease asked me, do I join this call now? I say yes. So I jumped on the call and answered questions about embroidery for a while. And there's Richard just like happy as a clam. He's like, I'm so glad you called. I didn't know that I could summon you. And I was like, I guess you can, dude. I guess you can summon me directly from the ether. But it was, again, it was just a cool thing where I jumped in on the call. We did all this education, and it was like, it's like, oh, thank you. And I was just like, and it wasn't even a question for me. It was like, yep, I want to be there and share where I can. I know Terry feels the same way. Let's see if we can get Terry on. Hey, Terry.
All right.
Hey,
we can hear you.
You're there.
We can hear you. Yeah. Yeah.
How weird. I went to get a water, came back, my microphone was off.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, Eric turned it off, Terry.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to do the intro. So, you know,
Did you read ahead to the dad joke? That's not mine.
I didn't get that yet. I didn't get that far yet.
Yeah.
Right. Well, then I will let myself off the hook and let you guys get back to the intro where you were at.
All right. Well, Terry, we've talked about Eric's secret sauce. We were actually just talking a little bit about, right, like just having education, knowing things, even if you're not an embroiderer. I think just having, these are little consumable bites, and the more we know about our industry, the better off we're going to be. So we hope that everybody stays tuned all the way to the end. We have not got to Marcia yet. So typically at this time in the show, we would have our news segment. Marcia Derryberry from Screen Printing Magazine was up for this week. And if you guys follow her at all on Facebook, she's shared that she's in the hospital dealing with some stuff. When I talked to her via text, she's doing the best that she can. And so we just wanted to, instead of having a news segment here, just take a moment for everybody to kind of really just send a little bit of love and light and prayers her way. And I know she's battling some of the challenges that she's had with her health. So we just want to wish her a very speedy recovery. And as soon as she's back in the form of being able to, she's like, I'd join you, but I think all the drugs I'm on, I might be a little more loopy than normal, I think is what she said.
Well,
So
all
we
the
love
best to
Marcia.
Marcia.
Yeah.
Marcia's been a good friend for many, many years. So.
Absolutely. So, if you guys are connected with her on Facebook, certainly jump in there and just let her know that you're thinking about her and that the two regular guys are sending our well wishes from here. Thank you, Eric, for putting that banner up. Yep. So, and then next week, Terry, we will have Win World Imaging News, Dan and MJ back for the news. Looking forward to having them back with us next week.
Right, exactly. Hey, Aaron, can we talk for a minute about T-shirts being sold online right now with Charlie Kirk's name and image?
As long as there's no political conversation, we're good. Go.
It's absolutely not political because
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, Kim and I were talking, and somebody had won an award in the industry, and she always goes and checks out their websites, and it was just filled with knockoff NFL images. And she was just rampaging about it. And so yesterday she said, it's all happening again. Besides, it's ghoulish to be, selling shirts based on somebody losing their life. Let me tell you what the legality is here for anybody that thinks, hey, you know what? I can make a couple of bucks printing these shirts.
Yeah.
The right of publicity. This legal right protects a person's name and likeness from being commercially exploited without their consent. This means you cannot make money by using a celebrity's image or name unless you have a licensing agreement with them. And then trademark infringement. This more specifically, prominent names can be trademarked, especially if used in connection with a business or organization like Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA. Creating merchandise that could cause consumers to mistakenly believe it is officially endorsed by or affiliated with Charlie Kirk would be trademark infringement. And this, and Aaron, just like you said, we don't want to be political one way or the other, but people need to be cautious out there about what they print.
Yep.
I had somebody say to me one time in a trade show booth, my attorney told me that if as long as it's on the internet, it's legal to print. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is your attorney your cousin who got their law degree, online?
Yeah. Because we've had an attorney on our show. Go back, if you go over to tworegularguys.com and search for Gordon Firemark, Firemark. We've had a couple of shows with him. In fact, maybe in light of all this, it's time to bring him back. He's always so gracious with his time. And he is a specific trademark. He works out in LA, works with, that type of movies and podcasts and things like that. And, it's one of those things where, as a business owner, are you really willing to stake your business on, like you said, a couple of bucks that you could make in a pretty nauseating way? So I think David Haynes from CorralTrainer.com, I think his comment is kind of spot on here, Terry. He says, copyright and trademark stuff used to tick me off, but I realized those companies don't last long at all, so it doesn't get to me as much. Just report where you can and try to advise. And that's what we're trying to do, I think, Terry.
Yeah. Yeah, they were about a year ago. There was somebody that had a store where they were showing all this NFL stuff. This is a different person on Facebook, and then came on complaining that basically her business had been raided, and then made the comment, "But I'll be back, bigger and better." And then she completely disappeared from Facebook. I'm sure she got the phone call. Seriously, you don't think we can come back?
Yeah, exactly. Ugh. All right. Well, let's keep moving forward. I see we've got a lot of regulators tuned in and comments. We'll get back to saying hello to everybody. In fact, let's just do that real quick, Terry, and then we'll get into our segment here. So, Chuck, good morning, and good morning to all from Chuck. Craig, good morning. It is, and so appreciate Craig tuning in, and Ramona. good morning to you as well. And then my son, the Keegster, Keegan, appreciate you being here, buddy. Love you so much, and excited. Keegan and I have kind of talked sparingly about at some point we've got to have him join us on the Two Regular Guys podcast, but we've got to create a merch brand for what he's doing first. So Keegan, that's where we got to start, so that way we can tie it into what we do here at Two Regular Guys. So he's got a whole universe, characters, amazing creative talent stuff that he's built, and we printed a few shirts for him and stuff like that, but I'd like to tie that together a little bit more. So anyhow. Awesome. And then Craig said, I ordered a desktop laser for Q4 work. Very cool. And we have Doug checking in from Los Angeles. Mr. David Haynes from CurlTrainer.com checking in as well. Happy Friday. So awesome. Good stuff, you guys, and appreciate you guys being here. If you wouldn't mind, just take a quick second here. Don't leave. Just hit the share button, hit the like button. Make sure that you get other folks in here. So the more people we have in the live conversation here, Terry, I think the more depth of knowledge that we can create with this topic about how do we maximize the opportunity in Q4, but also keep our sanity. And there's the other thing that I thought was pretty cool. Eric kind of suggested this idea for us and got us at least down the path. And then I shared, oh, here's a couple of articles that I wrote about this idea. And Terry's like, yeah, one of mine just published. And I read Terry's, and I'm like, I read yours, and I was like, oh crap. I mean, I'm pretty sure all mine were my own thoughts, but I'm like, did I plagiarize Terry? But no, wait a second. We've never really talked about this. We're so on the same wavelength that we both kind of wrote the same article.
Yeah, mine literally came out that day, that morning when Eric suggested this topic.
Divine intervention there. You know, I think sometimes people go, oh, what a coincidence. I'm like, no. The older I get, the less I believe in coincidences. And my wife and I actually call them God winks. So,
well, you know what Eric suggested was the holiday season, but what I'd like to call it is the Hallmark season.
You watch a lot of Hallmark movies.
I do. I'm obsessed with Hallmark movies.
Yeah, I bet you are. Well, you live in Phoenix, right? You got to figure out some way to get that cool mountain feel.
Well, when people say, well, don't you miss the change of seasons? I always say, well, it's on TV.
Yeah, I get to see it on Hallmark every day. All right, well, let's get into that topic here in just 1 second. We've got a little housekeeping to do. Plus, as Cassie always says at the start, the best dad jokes on earth. So we're going to test another one here, and Eric's already shaking his head, and I haven't even said it. So, Terry, are you ready for the dad joke?
I'm ready. Let's hear your dad joke.
All right, Terry. So how many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh?
I don't know how many.
Tentacles. Get it? 10.
For our podcast listeners, 10 tickles.
10, the number 10.
10, the number 10. Very good.
Or tentacles, like an octopus has. They have tentacles. All right. So, quote unquote, best dad jokes on the planet. There you go, everybody. Enjoy.
All right. Before we dive in, we want to thank everybody for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We need your voices. We would love to have the regulators participate in our show intros. Go to osg.link/intro, read a few sentences, be a part of every show. We are always looking for new guests, so if you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2 regular guys to book a future episode, or email us at info@tworegularguys.com. If you're listening to the podcast version of the show, we would appreciate you sharing the Two Regular Guys podcast with all of your industry friends so they can become regulators too. We would appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts. Wherever you do your podcast listening, we are there. And if you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and your questions about the Hallmark season.
The Hallmark season. I love that. Yeah. And Terry, I just want to, you had mentioned, we're always looking for new guests. We've got an open week next week, actually. So, we're still trying to fill in and with Printing United kind of on the way and some other stuff like that. I think people are pretty busy right now. So If you or anyone you know, as Terry said, so we've got an open week next week. We will certainly bring you an amazing show, and we're not worried about that. But we want to be open to whoever we need to have on the show. So just let us know, please.
If your microphone's shy, we make it easy for you. It's just a conversation.
Just like from the beginning, Terry, where you're like, I don't know what we're going to talk about for 30 minutes. Don't you worry. 13 years ago. All right. Well, let's dive in. Let's take a bite out of this topic, Terry. I think, again, I thought I was like, man, this is super cool that both Terry and I wrote about it, and we had really the similar thoughts. At least I can't say exactly the same. And I think, just with our experience, I know you've obviously had a lot of experience with the fourth quarter stuff. I've been involved in some businesses where fourth quarter was absolutely insane. I mean, like 90% or 80% of the business they did happened in a 2-month stretch, like that kind of insanity. But I also think that as much as we kind of have this consternation about it, so to speak, it's also a huge opportunity. Right? I think a lot of decorators that are focused on the fourth quarter really kind of grow into their business. That, one of the things that I've noticed is sometimes we have quote unquote problems or challenges in our business, and it's really difficult to fix until you throw a lot of orders at it. And then you can really see where the bottleneck is, right? And so that's been another, I think, for me, opportunity. But then it's also a very big risk, right? You've got a lot of things happening. You can make some decisions that can put you in a pretty bad spot. I loved a lot of your thoughts around some of that, so I can't wait to get into that. So any other ways you want to kind of introduce this, Terry?
Well, I was thinking about this when we were talking about doing this show, and as I was making notes, I thought, this is pertinent year round. And I think you explained it perfectly. It's like you've got a bucket, and the more water you put into it, the more you can see the leaks. Yeah. And I think the holidays is a good time for us to see the leaks.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Let's try to anticipate that a little bit right now.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah, that's such a perfect analogy, because I think, and I also love that you said this isn't necessarily just holiday related. So regardless of whether your business peaks in the fourth quarter, right? We all have peaks and valleys, and maybe it's more of a continuous peak and valley, but these same ideas I think apply, right? You kind of take the action, you do the things, you see what's broken. You can't fix the entire bucket in one day, right? You've got to, where's the biggest hole? Let's stick our finger in that and then figure out how to, just fill that. And then we can and so you just kind of keep this going. So, in fact, I can share a little kind of personal story about this, right? Where really kind of hit home for me. So there were a couple of situations. I'm apparently a slow learner, so it took a couple of these seasons to really kind of solidify my ideas here. The first one was, again, this fourth quarter peak, 80-90% of the business happening during basically the middle of November on up until the week before Christmas. Right. So it's not even really a full 2 months. and just lots of chaos, lots of late nights, lots of additional customer service that just wasn't really necessary, that type of thing. So that first year for me, what really showed up was perspective. We get in the thick of things, and without the proper perspective, we might not make the proper decisions. So the story is this: got to the end of the peak season, kind of got everything caught up, trying to take a deep breath. It was the day before Christmas, and we're getting ready to shut down the shop early. And I get this frantic call from one of the customers, and she is just livid. And, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And she's like, she placed everything last minute and was trying to rush everything to get to her customers. And we tracked the stuff, and we come to find out that FedEx shows it being delayed. And it's like, okay. And then, so I start digging a little bit deeper into the situation, and I found a news story. And unfortunately, one of the FedEx trucks that was taking this stuff to her area was involved in a major traffic accident on the freeway, and several people lost their lives, including the driver of the FedEx truck. And so I try to explain this to her, and her franticness was like, I don't give a, you know what? Like, I'm like, seriously? And so that just was like oh, interesting. All right. Like, okay. Lack of perspective, so we said, okay, well, I don't know how you want us to fix this. We ended up staying a little bit later that day than we had planned to get some more stuff out the door, shipped it, whatever. Right. But that really told me in that moment, like, who are we working with? Right. Well, what is it that's important?
Yeah.
Because, okay, if this gets there a day after Christmas, is it really going to ruin somebody's life so much that you don't care about somebody losing theirs? Yeah. So
the important thing is you have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the first one. And I'll be as brief as I can here. The second one was, I think what happens when we get into these challenging times where there's a lot of stuff going on, those challenges, like I'm probably one of the few people, but anybody who's a car racing fan, they always talk in NASCAR that yellows breed other yellows. and so when chaos starts happening, it kind of tends to be a domino effect, one thing after another. And so we had some challenges in the production environment. And then on top of that, we had in the middle of the busiest time, we had a couple of major snowstorms where the shipping companies weren't even showing up. We knew that the employees weren't going to make it because a lot of them rode the bus, and all the buses were shut down for a couple days. And we just didn't have a plan. We didn't have a backup plan or a way. We'd pushed everything to the end and just kept cramming as much business in there as we could. And the only solution that we came up with was bring your airbed. We're staying the night, and we're the production team. And so I'd already been putting in more hours than I could even fathom. I didn't see my family. I was, exhausted beyond belief. And I just remember the day after we'd kind of done that, my wife and son showed up to bring me some food, and I met them in the doorway, and my emotions just got the best of me. I just literally started crying because I'm like, I'm missing out on what should be a joyous time with my family for somebody's $30 blanket. Right. But there was, and again, the moral of the story was, for me personally, I looked back on all these things where we said yes because we just wanted to take on more, where we could have gone, let's wait before we make these commitments. Right. We overcommitted, basically, is the way I looked at it. So I knew from that point we had to make a change.
I feel like I lived it too, because you called me and complained about it every day.
That's cool. You probably did, my friend. And okay, so those are negative stories per se, right? But the reality is a lot of good came out of both of those opportunities, right? Like the first one was a really big opportunity for me to really understand perspective. I definitely am somebody that gets wound a little tight myself sometimes, and can really get focused and caught in the tunnel vision. And ever since that moment, I've always had that as kind of nobody died. We're okay. We're going to figure this out. Right. Like, and then that always brings me back to your saying, Terry, it's only a t-shirt. Nobody dies. So that was one good thing. And then the other good thing was I knew that I had to change something. Right. And I created our success group. I wrote my book. So, as challenging as those things were, I think there's a lot of opportunities when we look at these things the right way. And so that's when you step in and you bring some practicality to this, Terry.
Out of adversity. Hey, I do want to say hello. My niece Shani in Florida is
Hi,
tuned in. Hi, Shani.
Appreciate you being here. All right. Well, let's dive into this, Terry. Like I said, this is really, and we'll get you the link to Terry's article if you want to go read the full thing here. But we kind of pulled some things out of that, pulled some things out of what I wrote, and just want to cover a few segments, Terry. So I'll let you lead that if that's okay.
Yeah. Well, one thing we want to talk about is looking at last year's numbers and trends. So if you were in business during the holidays last year, that's the starting point. What dollar amount did you sell? And I think more importantly, how difficult was it to reach those numbers? Which means, can I do it again?
Yeah.
And something else that we tend to forget about from a year ago: how much business did we leave on the table because we were overwhelmed with what we were doing? So,
Yeah.
Aaron, if you're in business for a few years, all the better. You can look at those trends for October, November, and December, and um, when you look at those numbers, then you have to say, so can I do what I did last year? I mean, am I set up to do that?
Yeah.
Some people think, hey, it's semi-turbulent times. Am I going to be happy just to equal what I did last year, or can I make some changes? Can I do some new marketing, add some new products? Can I do something with graphics? Can I do something with staffing that we're going to talk about
Yeah.
to do more? So either way, you have to project a number that you want to achieve and work backwards on how to achieve it. So, and Aaron, something just like what you're talking about, can we achieve it without lots of extra hours and lots of extra pain, physical and mental,
Yeah.
than before? So, and then we have to do some projections, and I will tell you this: anybody out there listening, if you do projections for the last quarter, and a projection is just a guesstimate of what we believe we could accomplish,
Yep.
You're probably ahead of all your competition. Most of your competitors are not sitting down trying to calculate what did we do and can we do more and how can we accomplish the task. So that's kind of my take on tracking and looking at trends.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And Terry, just to real quick add to it, I think that you've hit it pretty much covered it really well. Quick add to it though is, you know me, I get to work with a lot of startups, right?
Right.
And they go, well, I don't know. This is my first time, or I just was trying to figure it out last year, that kind of thing. I mean, the reality is, and this is what I try to instill in people is trust your gut, right? Like, oh, well, I don't know. Yes, you do. You're just not brave enough yet. You're not confident enough yet to say this is it, right? Because I think we also get caught in this, oh, perfect world, right? If everything aligns, like I said, one challenge typically leads to other challenges. So the perfect world is probably not going to be real. So just think about like what your real capacity is, right? And don't set yourself up. Well, I've got every hour of the day that I can do this. You absolutely do. But is that really what you're willing to trade for, right? Like,
Right.
is that couple extra orders worth that of your life? Business owners, we don't start this business to work every hour of every day. And so I think, like you said, if you'll just sit down and think about, like you said, it's a guess. And so don't hold to that result. The result doesn't matter. It's what you gain from being able to kind of, like you said, work backwards from that idea and go, okay, how can I actually make this work? And then you'll start seeing, okay, well, and like you said, we'll talk a little bit more about staffing or new product or this or that. But I think most people just go, yeah, I want to crush it. Awesome. What does that mean? So, I really need this fourth quarter to go well. Great. What does that mean? Right. So I think that's the only part that I would add to that, Terry.
Yeah. Well, and Aaron, people don't also know what their capacity really is, and I've talked about here on the show so many times about I when I did a consultation with for a magazine with a decorator in Las Vegas, and I said, what do you want out of this? What's your issue? And she goes, I can't sleep at night. And I'm like, well, why can't you sleep at night? Because I never know where I am. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get everything out the door. I don't know if I can, because she didn't understand what she was capable of doing. She never sat down and figured out this is our capability. And so many people base their projections, base their plans on, just like you said, Aaron, the perfect world. Well, none of us live in a perfect world. Things go wrong.
Yeah.
And, when I schedule production, I schedule 80% of what I know I can do.
Yeah.
And why do I do that? Because the sales department, they want to slip some orders in for their good customers. So they get 10%. and the other 10%, that's for the real world going wrong. And then worst case scenario, those 10% are consumed by, the power going out or whatever. Best case scenario is I get to pull a couple of orders forward, and I get to get those done early. But you have to know, you have to be realistic about what you're able to do right now today, because, and Aaron, you said this at the beginning, you can't change everything overnight. You can't, hey, it's Friday, and we're not accomplishing what we want to accomplish, but by gosh, on Monday, everything on the schedule is going to go out the door. And I always preface with, I've talked about this before because we have been doing this for 13 years, but
almost guaranteed that we've talked about it.
and as many people know, I only have 8 stories. I just repackaged them.
You're not supposed to admit to that, Jerry. Sorry.
Knowingly.
Yeah.
But when I went into a company and they said, we pay out bonuses every week and we get further behind on a production schedule every week. And I'm like, well, that's impossible, isn't it? If you're paying bonus for getting extra work done and you're getting further behind, you clearly don't know what you're capable of doing. And you're basing your production schedule on a wish, a Christmas miracle.
Yep. I love it.
So,
yeah. That actually reminds me, I was listening to a thing the other day where somebody said, no, we don't have a to-do list. You have a wish list, right? A to-do list is the actual actions you're going to take. So I love that.
I like that.
Yeah. Cool.
But and Aaron, let me add one more thing.
Yeah, please.
Hey, here's what we're capable of doing right now. There's not a ton we can do about it. I mean, it's September. We can do a few things, just like you had said at the beginning, but then take this into January and say, okay, here are our shortcomings. Let's work on one of those things. And after we accomplish that, then let's work on another of those things. Never try to work on everything at once, because nothing will get done. What's the one thing that cost you money over the holiday, the Hallmark season, because you couldn't get product done? What's the one thing that held you back? And work on that in January. The time for that type of thing is in the future. It's not right now.
Yeah. I think right now is, what are you actually capable of? And let's be realistic to that, and then see how we can maximize that in this moment, right? Not, like you said, not making big wholesale changes. So I love that. Okay. So our regulators are going to be completely shocked, or not shocked at all, but we've got 6 points that we wanted to cover here. And if anybody's playing along at home, we're at point number 1. So we might actually have a show for next week already. But
I was sitting here thinking the same thing. Oh, hey, before anybody says, hey, can I be on your show next week? We got it filled, I'm pretty sure.
We do. But let's keep going, though. We can move forward. I know we can do this. Take us to segment number 2, Terry.
Well, the next is inventory, vendors. Take an inventory of your equipment, your supplies, your staff. Take stock of what you have at hand, and whether that's equipment, employees, blank goods. Think about what potential all those things combined can accomplish, and so basically, it's looking at where are we right now today with everything, and that's kind of like point number 1, where you have to understand what you're capable of doing. And so equipment wise, we've got some time. It's early September. Does any of your equipment need some tender loving care? Do you have a piece of equipment sitting over there that's not being used because there's I need a new print head and I just haven't gotten around to doing it? Well, now's the time, because put whatever equipment and products you have to use, and keep this in mind. If you need some new equipment, or this is the time, because your in tax savings can be a good motivator to make those purchases now, rather than waiting until January. And Aaron, along those lines, blank goods, supplies. Do we have some things that we'd like to move out? This maybe is a good time to have a sale and clear some stock and make it part of it. And here's the other thing you have to think about. Everybody else is also gearing up for the holidays.
Yes,
so
that was what was happening in my head as you were saying that.
you're just not going to sneak. It's like when you're not prepared for a trade show, and it's like, well, nobody told me there was going to be a trade show in Long Beach, California, late January that I've gone to for the last 30 years. So if your plan is to sell Christmas stockings, buy them right now because you don't want to get the notice that estimated delivery will be January 15th.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because nobody wants a Christmas stocking in January.
Yeah. 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 And just to piggyback a little bit, I love what you said about also looking at your existing inventory, right? This is when you're probably going to have the most eyeballs on your business. This is when you're probably going to have the most opportunities, right? We talked about at the beginning how this is also a very big opportunity for us as business owners and decorators. So, I'm not a fan of this, but I know it happens all the time, and I get the reason. But throughout the year, right? Oh, I'm just going to order a couple extra just in case, or I need to get that free shipping, and so you've got I guarantee that if you're a decorator, you've got some tote somewhere full of stuff.
Exactly right.
And so I think that's a really good point that you made there, Terry, is to kind of look at that. We don't have to bring in all the other stuff. And then I love that you also brought up the fact that you're not the only one that's going to be busy. So the thing that I learned too is when things are calm, normal, good, and you've got that vendor that you're working with, great. And then all of a sudden chaos happens and they're in chaos too, right? And so I think it's really important to understand you have a backup. Like I've said in my seminars for years, if your only relationship with your key vendors is the login for their website and things go sideways, right? When we had all the inventory problems or in the holiday season here, what are you going to do? Right. Like I know there's always a solution, and that's what I love about our industry is we're very industrious and we can always find a solution, but is it the right solution? Right. Like, oh, I just bought them retail off of Amazon. Okay, great. So you left all your profit margin just to fulfill some orders because you didn't take the time in September to call your vendor to make sure that you had a vendor to see, okay, what happens if they're out? Where am I going to go? Because trying to figure out where you go when you also have piles of orders that you're staring at, you're probably not going to make the best decisions then. But if you're doing it in a planning phase in September here, you're going to have a lot more clarity and a lot more ability to kind of be more creative with where you find. So I think that's really important, Terry. So thanks for bringing that stuff up.
Well, and something else that I want to talk about here is, and this is something that actually I did as a secret sauce here a little while back. And what do you do best? What's the most efficient thing that you do, and that can maximize your profit potential? So there are products and processes where that's where you should focus your attention, focus your marketing. So, Aaron, you talk about making this a joyful time. Well, do what you like to do and promote it. that'll help you be a little more joyful as well. So
I love that. Yep. So true. So true. All right. Well, Terry, I think we're covering some ground now. That's two. We got two. Let's get a couple of the comments here from the regulators though. Doug, when you mentioned about impressions in Long Beach, you said, I just got my first email yesterday for registration. So check that may be another thing, guys. If you wear 10,000 unread emails as a badge of honor, no wonder you've got some chaos, right? And then Doug said, I just finished inventorying all my blanks. That's awesome. Because I also think, Terry, you said something earlier when we were talking about segment number 1 about if you don't know what's real, then you got to go figure it out. Like you can't, so yeah, there's the best case scenario. I've talked to people about that. Well, I think I can get this many done an hour. And then all of a sudden, they get the 300 piece order and, oh, the equipment that I have, the setup that I'm doing, the reality is I can only do half of what I thought. Right. And now
Right.
you're working all night. Right. So I love that, Doug, that you shared that. Ramona says vendor backup. And let me just read it here. This is a good time to put that information on the website that compares all your vendors, and it's free. Okay. Terry? I'm not sure why that was thrown at you, but something I'm missing, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Go
I,
ahead,
I will stop there because
Okay.
we only have 2 done.
Well, let's get 3, and then, like you said, we've got next week to come back and finish this. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a secret sauce we need to get to here in a little bit. So
yeah, so I think we can get 3 in, right, and then we'll hit the secret sauce. How about that? And then hold on, real quick, Terry. Again, those of you that are tuned in live right now, what are your thoughts on some of this stuff? Right, where are you guys at with understanding about that forecasting capacity part that we talked about in segment number 1, and then inventory and kind of vendor relationships, managing your inventory. I talk about a lot where I still have iPhone 4 cases sitting in my basement if anybody needs one, right? That kind of thing, right? So having coffee mugs
somewhere for that.
Yeah, having coffee mugs in excess, probably okay, because I don't think those are going away. But all right. So, and then again, you guys that are tuned in live right now, I'd love to hear your comments. And so, Terry, you mentioned earlier we're going to talk more about staff and some things like that. So you want to lead us into this third and final segment for today?
Yeah. One thing that you can do, there's always contract work. I mean, when I was in the fraternity and sorority market, as of Thanksgiving, we had 0 business until January. So, I'm the perfect case scenario for a decorator out there that's looking for some contract work, because I don't want to lay any employees off at Christmas time. I'm not that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But so contracting is something you should take a look at, and it can be a scary thing. So, go out there and check out contractors or ask other decorators, do you do contract work over the holidays? And some of them would say, oh, would love to do that. And try to get samples of their work, maybe some references, because well, at least in screen printing, and I think it goes across the board there. It's something I say in every class. Last weekend in Chicago, had a really great class, and one of the first things I told them was there are lots and lots and lots of screen printers. There aren't very many good screen printers. Yeah. So, make sure that you check out anybody you contract with. But a lot of what I think about doing is temporary employees. So, when I was in college, we got out of school at Thanksgiving, and it didn't go back until the first week in January. So that is an awesome opportunity to have some holiday help. And even if it's not that early, there are college students who would love to make some money over the holidays.
Absolutely.
And Aaron, the more flexible you can be, the greater that pool of potential employees is. So after school, high school students, and when they're on their break full time, stay at home moms and dads, second jobs to help pay for the holidays. And, Aaron, I've always been kind of creative about having extra help.
Yeah.
And, I've always been a 4-day production guy, Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days, because that gave me Friday to actually run overtime, and employees didn't mind coming in to work overtime on a Friday. But you could also do a Saturday shift, 6 weeks of Saturdays. And do you have an employee right now that you would trust to go in there and run the shift on a Saturday, or run an evening shift or something like that? So, I guess my biggest takeaway here is don't wait. Uh, hire people as early as you can. Get them trained before it gets busy because it's going to be a disaster. And Aaron, I know you've had experience with this, bringing in temporary employees at the last minute,
Yep.
And it can be a nightmare. So it's a lot easier to train somebody when your business is more calm as opposed to in the big rush. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're definitely right. I've had experience with that. It happens, right? Things kind of happen, and you bring in this person, and you bring in another person, and I remember one day standing next to somebody, listening, and somebody had, I was just kind of in the flow doing my thing, and it just kind of overheard this conversation, and why I perked up was probably like the kind of gut check moment of like somebody asking, "Oh, okay, well, you're training me, what should I do here?" And that person said, "I just started yesterday." Yet that was the idea, right? That the person who ran that department just said, "Okay, go with them." And they just started yesterday. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was a real realization for me to be like, oh, yeah, you can't just do this, go follow your neighbor around kind of thing. And so I had to kind of shift and break away and go, okay, let's get both of you trained here. And I think one thing is you will find that, bringing people in, humans at their heart want to help, right? That just it's
Yes.
human nature. I know that it doesn't feel like that in today's world all the time, but human nature really is that we just want to help other people as best we can, right? There's this give and take, obviously. So from that place, right, I think when we train people, sometimes we miss probably the most value is we say, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it's kind of that kind of old parent philosophy of like, do that because I said so.
Right.
Right. And I think if you spend less time saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, and spend more time saying, here's where we're trying to get to, and this is why some of these things that I'm suggesting to you are important. But at the end of the day, if you get to this point with this kind of scenario, right? Like for example, when you get into the details of this, one of the things that we would ask people to do is put the work orders into the packages in a very specific way with the barcode kind of facing out. And it took a little extra to fold it more carefully than just kind of jamming it into the bag. And so you kind of got this like, well, why the heck am I wasting my time doing that? I just want to get as many packages over to the shipping table. So I grabbed them, I walk them over to the shipping table, and I said, okay, grab that package that you just put in there, out of there, and ship it for me. Oh, I get it. Now I've got to pull it out. And I'm basically at the shipping table having to repackage what you just did because you jammed the paperwork in there. And I said, so now look at this one that I did where I put it in like this. You pick that up, you scan the thing, you pull it out, you close it, and away you go. Right. So I know not everybody's got employees, but in general, why are you getting to where you're getting? And so when your neighbor kid comes in and you go, well, why don't they care? Well, they don't know why they should care.
Right. And well, it's two things. And I'm huge on the why. You always have to tell employees why you're doing things. And so it makes sense to them because a lot of times, just like your scenario, Aaron, sometimes it just feels like busy work. Oh, wait, this really impacts somebody else's job. You're making somebody else's job more difficult by not taking this extra step. And my other philosophy as a manager has always been most everybody comes to work wanting to do a good job. And I think there are too many owners and managers who don't believe that, and they get exactly what they believe. I've always had huge success with employees because I always had the philosophy they want to do a good job. What can I do to help them to do a good job? And it's always been a very positive work environment. So to wrap this up in a bow, it all comes from the top.
Yeah, I agree. And so, yeah. Okay. So let's get a couple of comments. I'm going to get us a little off track and then get us back on track a little bit here. I wanted to Ramona said, I just checked my books comparing this year to last year. I'm actually on target, feeling good. So I wanted to celebrate that first, right? Like, I've got the pom poms out, and I guess let's see here. So, yeah, let's get Tone Dan's comment in here. I think we can just break this down real quick. One of the things that bugs me is holding on to things that don't sell or we didn't do anything with. The show, The Prophet with Marcus Lemonis once said, if things are slow and you have stuff on the shelves, have a flash sale. It's not doing any good sitting there taking up space. You might need the cash during a slow period. Yeah, I think that's an interesting, a good take on that for sure. I agree. We talked about kind of our capacity and stuff. I mean, you can even look at that like with some of your customers, right? Like the idea of addition by subtraction. Right? We might lose money on that thing that's sitting on your shelf in the short term, but that frees you up to put something there that will make you money potentially, right? That kind of idea. Yep. Thanks for bringing that up there, Mr. Tone Dan. And then Doug's comment made me giggle. It says, our boys in Valley Forge and Bastion, am I saying that right, Terry?
Bastion, yeah.
Bastion wished Army Supply had ordered ahead. And then this comment from Eric is the one that I wanted to just touch on to kind of close things up, and then we can get Eric in here for the secret sauce after we kind of see what's going on. He says those overtime shifts can also be a great time to live test folks who want to move up or work in different capacities. So do you want to speak to that real quick, Terry?
Well, yeah, absolutely. This, in times of trial, the people that step up, those are the people that have that potential to become supervisors. And, and again, in my experience, the supervisor might not be the person that had been there for the last 12 years. It might be the person that's been there for 2 months who really steps up. I remember hiring. I had 7 artists working for me at one time, and there were 4 or 5 of them that had been there for several years. But I ended up promoting somebody that had been there for a year to run the department because she had that step up and get it done attitude. So Eric's 100% correct.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I agree with that too. And I think Tone Dan's comment actually in a way ties together. I know it doesn't seem like offhand, but to me, they tie together. He says, since I was young, my goal has always been to be known for doing a good job. That's success to me. And that's exactly it, right? This is an opportunity as an owner or a manager to not only get through a busy, chaotic season, but if you do want to grow, if you do want, you're going to have to bring more people in, right? And so that temp might be the next manager that you need, might be the next leader of a team that you need. So look for the people like Tone Dan that just want to do a good job, right? They're a temp and they want a paycheck for sure. But the reality is there is definitely different levels, right? There are some people that unfortunately are just warm bodies. They haven't figured it out yet. All they want to do is, when do I get my check? When do I get my check? And you go, okay, here's what you get done, get them out of the way, but keep your eyes open for the other folks that understand that they can turn that temp job into something a little bit more. So,
yeah. So tune in next week for 3 more points and preparing for the holiday season.
Absolutely. I think we got some good stuff. And honestly, I think it's probably a natural kind of switch, right? We kind of talked a lot of back end, and I think next week we can talk a lot of kind of the foreground, the customer facing stuff as well.
Yep. 100%.
Awesome. Great stuff, Terry. And thank you for that amazing article. Eric put it in the comments earlier, but if you just want to go over to Impressions Magazine, you should be able to find it pretty easily. And we will get that linked into our show notes as well once we get this show up in the podcast world. So
the most recent issue. So
yeah. So that would be, I think they're calling it their September issue, right? Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. I know that's a question I probably you wouldn't know off the top of your head. I don't know why I asked it. All right. Well, Terry, we got secret sauce. I know Eric can do it in like 2 minutes. That's totally his MO. But
that's Eric's thing.
Kidding. All right. Let's start with Eric today, actually, and then so kind of what Eric's got coming up here. So besides the secret sauce in just a moment, you can also catch Eric this afternoon on the Take Up, which is episode number 236. and summoning Eric from his story that he told at the top while Terry was fixing his microphone. Eric's going to share some Q&A from a recent call he attended with embroiderers and decorators, from stabilizer expectations to machine brand recommendations to the realities of adding patch attachments to your shop. Eric's going to share his insights and points to point back to some pertinent materials that covered questions asked of Mr. Eric Campbell. So you can join him at 2:30 Mountain Time, 4:30 Eastern Time to share your experiences, and just a great opportunity for a little extra Q&A. You get to summon Eric. I like that. So we need like a little bottle, a little genie bottle. Let's rub it and summon Eric. I love that. And then if you also want to summon Eric in person, head over to the Impressions Expo in Dallas coming up in about 3 weeks. I can't believe it. So, yeah, sorry, Eric. I did the same thing, kind of, oh my gosh. But he's going to be teaching the technique toolkit and all about mascot embroidery and digitizing. I think my biggest concern for that is, am I going to be able to get a mascot head in time? So he's going to kill me. I know he will. So that's what Eric's got coming up. Terry, what about you? What's coming up for you?
Well, I just had my complete screen printing business course in Chicago at Atlas Screen Supply last weekend. Awesome. I will be going back there again on November 1st and 2nd. So you can sign up for that at atlasscreensupply.com. Of course, I'll be at Printing United on October 22nd through 24th. Aaron, and you and I will be at some point recording a Two Regular Guys episode, and Absolutely. Watch for all of my upcoming events at terrycombs.com. How about you?
Definitely check that out, everybody. terrycombs.com. I will also get an opportunity to be at the Impressions Expo in Dallas, so I'm looking forward to enjoying a beer or something with Mr. Eric Campbell. But I'm not just there to see Eric. Definitely that's a highlight, but I'm also there to share and facilitate a couple of training sessions. So on October 3rd, I had to double check the date there, I will be teaching Uncommon Mindset, Uncommon Results, how to stop operating like everyone else. Maybe some stuff out of what we talked about today, planning ahead, that type of thing. So that's happening on October 3rd. And then the next day on October 4th, I will be facilitating a panel called Cutting Through the Noise, Finding Success in the Wild West of DTF, direct-to-film printing. And going to have a really awesome panel, gentleman named Dan Frank from Silver Screen Print in Reno, Nevada, very large DTF printer out there, will be on that panel with also Dane Clement from Stalls will be there. So we're trying to kind of cover decorators, somebody from the art side, and then also Rob Super from American Print and Supply. And so I'll be moderating that and basically just grilling them to try to wring out every bit of DTF knowledge they have and find out kind of what's real out there. So very excited about that. And then head to impressionsexpo.com and you can get registered for the event and sign up for those 2 classes there. And then I will also be at Printing United with Terry and maybe Eric. We're still efforting there, but that's happening October 22nd through the 24th in Orlando, Florida. And if you want a free pass to get registered, you go to printingunited.com/attend and use the code 141404. I got 3 sessions, hosting and emceeing the media day, facilitating 2 sessions in the apparel zone, podcast with Terry, conversations with Terry. It's just going to be, I was going through and trying to figure out my schedule and I'm going, oh my gosh, I think I may have overcommitted, but it'll be okay. It's that exciting. So anyhow, I can't wait to see everybody there, Terry, for that. So without further ado, you think we should get to that secret sauce?
I think we should. Let's hear it, Eric.
So we've all seen a satin stitch in our embroidery that looks like it was haphazardly outlined with one edge or another dotted with running stitches that were certainly not part of the overarching design. Though this can be intensely frustrating, it's easily explained and corrected if you know what to look for. This is handling escaped edge underlay. Now, it's commonly seen on edge run or contoured style underlay on satin stitch columns. You'll see this row of extraneous stitching that looks like a misplaced outline. It's usually an escaped underlay. And in fact, here, we'll try and add something to here. I'm going to add some slides, and we're going to go ahead and show you what's going on here. So this is what we're talking about with that escaped underlay. This is what it looks like. We'll do this live. Sorry, folks. Escaped edge underlay or contour underlay like this. It's when you have underlay that's not covered by the top stitching, it can kind of be out and proud and look like an outline that shouldn't really be there. So the problem is when we have an outline like that, it turns out that it usually is just underlay popping out. It's usually a problem with pull compensation or with the inset levels. So what you're usually looking at on materials or garments to shift easily where the underlay stitching isn't set back far enough from the edge, you can see this popping out as we see on this little metallic number 5 up here. There are 2 common problems going to lead to these escaped edge runs. If the finished satin stitch looks thinner than you intended, then usually that's something that you need to deal with the automatic pull compensation setting, right? Drawing or editing the shape, though lots of us will correct for pull and push compensation issues manually, drawing or editing the shape to make the satin stitch wider in this is unlikely to help with the issue. As you move the edge of the element, any automatic underlay will maintain the same distance from the finished edge as it did in the original. Problematic. So really, you can't just draw this out of it. You actually have to use the automatic setting. So the right call for a narrow column that has an exposed underlay like this is to start by measuring the width of the finished satin stitch and then adding that missing thickness. So if it's coming in and it's a 0.5 millimeter too thin, you want to add that 0.5 millimeter to your automatic pull compensation, and it's going to go ahead and broaden out that column while allowing that underlay to stay in place at the original distance or with increased distance at the original width that it was inside of there. Now, in the case that the shape is wide enough for the correct width, it really isn't the same issue altogether. If you're still encountering that escaped underlay after adjusting pull compensation, it'd be the same thing. So either we're wide enough or maybe we've done our adjustment, but even after the adjustment, we're still seeing that underlay popping out of the edge. Then the problem is with the inset or the margin. So what we want to do there then is use the inset or margin settings to tuck the underlay further under the top stitching. So you're going to see the inset or margin distance in your software. This number simply defines the distance between the edge of the drawn element and the underlay line. When you increase the inset of the underlay, you literally just tuck those lines deeper inside of the column further away from that edge. Now, the truth of the matter is many people are going to tell you just to tear it all out. Take out that underlay. Now, I would say, honestly, you should reconsider that because edge run and contour underlays, depending on what kind of material you're on, they shore up the edges, especially if you think of the outer curve of a satin stitch. The inner curve is always more dense. The outer curve is always more loose. So there's sawtoothing or other kinds of gaps that can appear. And the edge underlay being underneath that can kind of cover some of that color problem where we don't get that sawtoothing. And when we have textures, that edge of that underlay, it can hold on. The satin stitch will hold onto that edge instead of becoming jagged when we're on something that has texture or gaps. So it provides that edge reinforcing rail and it covers the background color. Removing it can reduce stitch quality. So I really do want you to consider that before you just tear it out. Think about tucking it in if you really need that loft, that support from underneath, or if you're trying to avoid some color coverage on the outside of a tight curve, or you're seeing rough edges or sawtoothing because of that pulling into different nooks and crannies on textured materials. So think about that before you just tear it out. Unless, and here is my one exception to the rule, if you are on 3D foam, especially on caps, I always remove edge run underlay on 3D designs with this symptom. When you see the little row of nodules of foam sticking out of the outside edge, many people think they're having a cleanup issue or they need to use heat. Though that can be true of little fibers of 3D foam, you can see elsewhere on this design that we're showing on screen that it is nice and clean, but we see that little round of lumps on the outside edge. That is an escaped underlay. Many digitizers try to cut foam using an edge run underlay before we do the top stitching. For my money, this is the thing that's caused people the most headaches, especially on things like stretcher caps that are likely to shift or buckle. Take out that underlay. The top stitching density is what's used to cut the foam. remove the edge run because you will never see this kind of shifting, especially on hats, structured hats where they buckle, using that 3D foam. This row of lumpy stitches sticking out of the edge is the top problem I see with people having quality issues. So honestly, take it out there, tear it out every time. But ultimately, the tale of machine embroidery quality, it really has multiple factors that define it. It can be lots of different reasons that you have these kinds of issues. And what I would say is to make the best go of this, you really want to make sure that you take into account all of these different factors that you can. The tale of those factors are really only going to be told under the needle of your own machine. You have to test for yourself with your particular combination of garment, needle, machine, hoop, and design parameters. Test, pay attention, and do what makes sense for the distortion you see. You'll be glad you gave yourself the time to learn. And also, hey, forgive yourself when occasionally things don't go the way you plan. Be glad you did. All right, that's my secret sauce for this week.
Great information and just under 2 minutes.
Yeah, just under. Eric is so amazing. He beats himself up a little bit too much, but man, I mean, in a secret sauce, you just jam pack. Like if you're an embroiderer, that was just a master class in just under 2 minutes or 7. Perfect stuff.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've come to the close of another show, Terry. First off, thank you for a great article. You guys, again, go to impressionsmag.com and check out Terry's article. It will also be in the show notes there. So great time. And I love talking about this topic with you, Terry. And I can't wait till next week where we get to continue this discussion.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it too, because I kept trying not to jump ahead and comment about things in our part 2. So
you did a good job. Very good job.
All right. We also want to thank our show producer, Eric Campbell, for all he does, pushing the buttons, turning those knobs, and providing an awesome secret sauce today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. And Keegan, see you later, buddy. So next week, part 2. Excited about that, Terry. Can't wait. I'm already got the thoughts brewing. So we'll see if we can get through next week and actually finish it.
Right. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And that was the 2 regular guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of 2 Regular Guys. We're here because of listeners like you, and we're so grateful to have you on this journey with us. For more valuable insight, be sure to visit our website, 2regularguys.com, and join the conversation on our Facebook page. And hey, if you or someone you know has expertise, a unique perspective, or a story worth sharing, we'd love to have them as a guest on the show. Just reach out. Remember, success in this industry isn't just about the equipment you own or the techniques you've mastered. It's about the mindset you bring and the connections you build. Keep learning, stay curious, and don't be afraid to think differently. Keep pressing on, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the 2 Regular Guys.